is the Oak Cliff Cemetery, and it goes back to 1844. This is the grave of George Maladon. His father worked for the federal government in what was called the Indian Territory, and his father was the executioner of the Native Americans in this area, and so he assisted his father with these executions, and he claimed that he helped execute 300 Native Americans. Right here's buried Adolphus Andrews, and he attended Oak Cliff High School, which is now Adamson High School, and he graduated at 15. In World War I, he was in charge of an entire fleet. If you'll look at this one's pretty interesting. They walked for 2 months from Houston to the Dallas area. The Chrétiens had a daughter named Eugenie, and she married this guy named Charles Rossler. He's one of the first members of the Dallas Symphony Orchestra, and he was the first French horn player of the Dallas Symphony Orchestra. One mysterious thing that you see at cemeteries, old cemeteries in Oak Cliff, sometimes there are dead chickens and eggs and candles all together. This looks like there was a pouch that maybe had the eggs and chicken inside of it. This is Eugene Joffre. His first cousin was a man named Joseph Joffre, who was a world hero. He was the commander of the French army during World War I. He had fought with his brother and his cousin in the Franco-Prussian War, and he was tired of fighting. He was an experienced stone cutter and mason in Europe, so he actually helped cut the bricks for the first Dallas courthouse and helped build the first Dallas courthouse. His son stole one head of cattle and was murdered for it. They found him in a tent with a bullet through his head at Bachman Lake. This is the grave of Mary Jane and William Horde. See down here it says that they were the first settlers in Oak Cliff. They had a daughter named Mary Jane Crawford, and she would take a horse-drawn carriage and go all over Dallas. She would go as far as West Dallas, taking care of flu victims, and she would do this up until right before she died. She died in her 80s. In this area, a lot of these people would have been born slaves and then, lived past the Emancipation Proclamation, and so a lot of them had no education and were obviously poor. So you'll see a lot of these handmade markers, and in fact on that one you see the ends are backwards. There's several out here that are misspelled. This is the south end of the cemetery, and you'll notice that it goes downhill, and this is where the African Americans would have been buried. They just were given the least desirable piece of land, and the bad thing about that, you can see how it goes downhill, and so when there would be a rain or a flood, it would wash over the grave. So a lot of times when you're walking around here, you'll see graves that are kind of hollowed out, and that's just from the erosion and the water washing the topsoil away, and sometimes you actually see bones on top of graves here. Okay, now you can't tell anybody this.